August 31st, 2017, in the seashores of Kanniyakumari, a couple was walking by holding hands. The place was very beautiful. Some boats were fishing in the sea, and behind that very big mountains, and sun was setting behind the mountains. It was a very beautiful evening. Also, there was no crowd in that beach, and the couple were enjoying that moment with their partner. When they were walking, they took photos of everything in their camera. When they were walking, her boyfriend suddenly stopped seeing something. His girlfriend, who was taking photos, asked him, "What happened?" But for that, without saying anything, he was seeing something in front of him and pointed out his hands towards that thing, and in the next few seconds, both of them rushed to that place. Now the next day, that is Saturday, after the trip is over, she should have called her elder sister saying that they were safe. But her sister didn't receive any phone call from them. She waited for a while and called her younger sister, but her phone was switched off. Now she called her boyfriend, and his mobile phone was also switched off. The elder sister waited for the whole day, and after that she didn't waste any time, since she knows that they will call her, and it is a red flag. Immediately she went to the police and gave a missing complaint. Few days back, the name of the couples are Vikash and Vaishnavi, even though they both are college students in Pescas of Coimbatore district. 21 years old Vikash is a person who is interested in sports. He will easily connect with all the people. But 20 years old Vaishnavi is shy type and an introvert. Her elder sister and father raised her up after her mother passed away due to heart attack when Vaishnavi was 13 years old. She will not talk with anyone. Since Vikash is her first boyfriend, she was very caring on him. Also, this is the first time they went out together in bike. Vikash had a plan of spending the weekend in Kanniyakumari beach. Even though this Kanniyakumari beach is little away from the city, it was a remote area. Even though there is a village nearby, there won't be any crowd like the other beaches. Maximum there will be boats, which is used for fishing in the sea. All the boats will come and sell that live fishes in the nearby market. Not only that, in the nearby mountains, since there are tea plantations, the wind in the beaches will be sweet and nice. Because of this, the beach was very famous. A lot of people will come there as couples and families and camp there. All these were the tourist attractions of the Kanniyakumari beach. Even though there was no crowd in the beach, there will be a lot of happenings in the nearby areas. Vikash and Vaishnavi, who came there to spend their weekend there, before exploring, they went to a place called Fishing Pier. Fishing Pier means they will park the fishing boat a little inside the sea. So to walk to that boat, there will be a wooden pathway above the sea. That is what is called a fishing pier. It is not a tourist attraction. Even though it is a normal one, since at a time of evening sunset, it will be nice to walk and see the view, and they decided to go to other place afterwards. Both Vikash and Vaishnavi holds their hands and walk towards it. Present, since Vikash and Vaishnavi was missing, Vaishnavi's sister and her father gave a complaint to the police inspector Aditya. He started the investigation. As a first stage, he traced their mobile signals, but he couldn't find their signal. The next day, he went to Kanniyakumari beach. To the people around there, his police team showed the photos of Vikash and Vaishnavi and asked them, "Hey, whether you saw these couples, were they fighting? Or else is there anything suspicious in what they were doing?" Like this, they asked a lot of questions to all the people there. In the investigation, some people saw them and they said, "The couple looked normal, sir. They were not fighting. They were just enjoying their time happily." For the next 2 days, Aditya and his team were searching them seriously. But there was no improvement in the investigation. They didn't get any information about Vikash and Vaishnavi. But everything was until September 3rd. Because that day, a fisherman who was fishing in the sea saw a dead body floating. It was Vaishnavi's dead body, and exactly 2 days later, on September 5th, in a village nearby the sea, a dead body was found, and that was Vikash's. Vikash and Vaishnavi was completely unidentifiable. They should be dead on the day they went missing. Aditya thought that their body must have been in the seawater from that day. According to their autopsy report, for both of them throughout their body, it was found that in a lot of places their bones were fractured. But at that time, the doctors couldn't say why the bones were fractured. Whether the bones were fractured since someone beat them, or else since their bodies were in the sea for some days. Whether the bodies smashed in the rocks due to the waves, they couldn't say clearly. But Aditya knew that something had happened to them. He thought that Vikash and Vaishnavi might be murdered and started to check all the CCTV footage in the Kanniyakumari beach. Even in a small clip, Aditya might get an important evidence or what happened to them. So he started to check all the footages. Like Aditya thought he got an important footage. In that footage, Vikas and Vaishnavi was there, but without being above the fishing pier. Under that, where the boats are anchored, both of them were holding hands and walking. In that video footage in that place, other than them, no one was there. This is the most weird thing. Since there is nothing around them which is dangerous, and since there is no humans, what might have happened to them? How it looked like means they were willingly staying there. With this footage, Aditya closed the case. If you ask whether the police have found the killer means, no, they didn't close it like that. From the footages Aditya got, he thought that it must have been Vikas and Vaishnavi's final moments, in that they were walking alone by holding hands, and since no one is around, when they want to play in the sea, they must have accidentally drowned, or else they must have committed suicide. Aditya closed the case by saying this. But Vikas and Vaishnavi's family denied it completely, even though they couldn't do anything, since police closed this case. After that, no one came forward to find what happened to Vikas and Vaishnavi. But everything was until September 26th. 4 weeks later, after the death of Vikas and Vaishnavi, exactly 4 weeks later, the place where their bodies were found, exactly in the same area, 2 more bodies of a girls were found. There were a lot of similarities between the girls' bodies and Vikas and Vaishnavi's bodies. The age of these 2 girls was also between 20 to 25. They also came to visit the Kanniyakumari beach, and most importantly, their autopsy report matched with Vikas and Vaishnavi's autopsy report. Their bones were also fractured in lots of places, said the report. The police became alert, and it made to start a big investigation about what was happening in Kanniyakumari beach. To find out what was happening in the beach, a separate detective, Sukhiyai Vardhan, was appointed. He and his team started to recheck all the evidence on this case from the start. When Sukhiyai was checking all the evidence and video footages, with one of the pictures he cracked the case. On the day of the incident, Vikas and Vaishnavi in that Kanniyakumari beach, when they were walking near the fishing pier by holding hands, Vikas suddenly stopped seeing something and pointed his fingers. In the next few seconds, both of them rushed towards that place. Vikas saw a fisherman, and that fisherman under the fishing pier. He was ready to take his boat and go to the sea. Vashu, if we go in the boat with that fisherman, it will be very nice to see the beach and sunset from the sea. What you were saying. Can we go there, Vaishnavi agrees. Before that fisherman go into the sea, they rushed towards him. After that, only police got a footage of them standing under that fishing pier. Actually, in that footage, both of them will be walking to that fisherman. But due to the angle of that camera, the fisherman was not seen. 70-year-old fisherman Joseph Pandian will catch fishes in the sea and sell that to make his living. First, Vikas and Vaishnavi, both of them went and said, "We will also come with you, sir." When they approached him, he said, "No." But since Vikas and Vaishnavi pleaded him a lot of times to go with him, finally he agreed to take them. That fisherman Joseph was very lean, short, and looked pretty. But since he was working in that fishing boat since his childhood, he just looked like that. But he was physically very strong. Even though he looked weak from outside, inside he was a very disturbed person. When Vikas and Vaishnavi asked him for the first time to come in his boat, there is a reason why Joseph said no. Joseph knows that a dangerous character was sleeping inside him and it can come out anytime. But since Vikas and Vaishnavi asked him repeatedly, he said yes. He knows what is going to happen in a few seconds. After Vikas and Vaishnavi got into the boat went deep inside the sea. Now, the beast inside Joseph came out. Suddenly, he pushed Vikas into the sea. When he fell into the sea, Joseph with a big iron hook rod, Vikas who was struggling inside the sea, and when he was trying to get inside the boat, with that iron hook in face, head and hand, Joseph started to beat aggressively. At one stage, without being able to get inside the boat, Vikas died. Without knowing what is happening, Vaishnavi was frozen in shock. She was in dead fear seeing her boyfriend being beaten and dying in front of her. Now Joseph pushed Vaishnavi into the sea like Vikas, and with the same iron hook, he started to beat in her head, face, and hand aggressively. After killing both of them, as if nothing had happened, he came to the shore and started to sell fishes. Exactly 4 weeks later, if both their dead bodies weren't washed to the shore, Joseph would have escaped easily from killing Vikas and Vaishnavi. Since both the girls went inside the sea in a boat like Vikas and Vaishnavi, and like them he beat and killed them with the same iron hook, and because of one of the girls everything came out. She said, After we went inside the sea with Joseph, I became alert, since I sensed something was wrong. From her mobile, that girl sent a message to her friend. After police got both their dead bodies, and after knowing that she texted a message like this, they checked the register to see which boat went inside the sea on that day and time. But since it was a holiday, other than one boat, none of the boat went inside the sea, and that boat is Joseph's boat. When they found this, the detective Sukiai, who was assigned to that case, noticed a photo in Vaishnavi's camera, and the person in that photo is none other than Joseph Pandian. Without knowing that Joseph is going to kill them brutally in a few minutes, being in his boat, Vaishnavi took a final photo of him. Even though there is no clear motive of murder, it was proved that he is the killer. He was given a death sentence. Next story: the universe didn't want me to rest. I am pretty sure there are higher forces at play here that are conspiring against me, depriving me of sleep. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's what countless sleepless nights will do to you. But then again, I couldn't blame anyone. I knew what I was getting into when I was choosing my career path. With my eyelids drooping and protesting, I walked into the jewelry showroom. My eyes suddenly became hyper-aware, taking in the tiniest of details of the crime scene. There were pieces of glass all over the floor, clearly from the broken window, which was the point of entry for the robber. The owner, Mr. Rohan Malhotra, was seated on a chair, holding his head in his hands. I couldn't see his face, but I knew he was furious. His muscles were tense. His feet were tapping on the floor impatiently. I walked up to him and put my hand on his shoulder, silently offering comfort and consolation. When his eyes met mine, all I could do was stand there transfixed, staring into those brown orbs. They were chocolate brown, and with the sheen of tears glistening in them, they looked like molten chocolate. Brown eyes were very common, but his seemed very unique and beautiful. My eyes started wandering, taking in his slightly crooked nose, a jawline so sharp it could cut through steel, and a mole just above his lips. His shoulders were broad and muscular, his legs long. If I didn't know better, I could have bet that he was a model. I could tell that the appreciation was mutual, because he was staring back at me with the same intensity. Both of us had seemingly forgotten about where we were and what the critical circumstances surrounding us were. What broke our eye contact was the sound of someone clearing their throat, quite loudly and intentionally. I turned to see Jay, the other police officer, standing near the door. My face turned red with embarrassment, and I could see a hint of a blush creep up on Rohan's face too. I had no idea how long Jay had been standing there. "Mr. Malhotra, how about you tell us exactly what happened? And don't leave out any details, however inconsequential they may seem," I asked. I had closed my shop for the day and was heading home when I realized that I had forgotten to lock the cash drawer. When I returned, I saw that a man had broken in, had taken all the cash, and was trying to open the other drawers of jewelry. I tried to stop him, but he just pushed me and ran away. Rohan narrated the whole incident. "All right, sir. Since you saw his face, we are going to need you to come down to the station and get the robber's sketch made. And just a suggestion, maybe you could consider installing alarm systems and CCTVs here, just as a precautionary measure," Jay said. "Yes, I shall. I should have done it long ago, but I just kept delaying it," Rohan said. While the two men continued their conversation, my phone rang. As soon as I saw the caller ID, my blood started boiling. My body was filled with rage, and I could feel myself beginning to shake. I had had enough now. It was time to close this chapter, once and for all. 2 days later, we had caught the robber, the sketch making it quite easy for us to identify him. He was here at the station now with all the cash that he stole, and we were just waiting for Rohan to arrive and double-check it. I would be lying if I said that I hadn't thought about him, that I had forgotten about those beautiful eyes. He was just a stranger, yet my heart wanted him to be more than just that. The usually annoying universe seemed benevolent today, as in walked Rohan, just as I was planning to step out. He cross-checked the money, then thanked us profusely. I was pleasantly surprised when he jumped on me and hugged me, but I didn't mind it at all. When he realized what he had done in his overenthusiasm, he pulled away sheepishly. I could see that he wanted to say something, but was struggling to get the words out. "Hey, is there something you want to say?" "It's all right, go ahead." I tried to encourage him. Would you like to grab dinner sometime? Or coffee?" "My treat. as a gesture of gratitude for helping me. It's only fair, considering the amount you have done for me, he said in a pleading tone. I had to admit, he looked really cute when he was nervous. Whenever he would feel shy, he would rub this spot behind his ear. I barely knew this man, yet I had already started noticing little things about him. My heart was begging me to accept his invitation, to give him a chance. But my brain was smarter with its idea of self-preservation. In the battle between these two, my brain emerged victorious. I am sorry, Rohan, but I will have to say no. I just have a lot on my plate right now. I declined politely, hoping he would catch the hint. I can see there is something troubling you. I know the battle between the brain and the heart better than anyone. I can feel it, our connection, and I know you feel it too. But if what you want is for me to stay away, then your wish is my command. Saying that, he walked away. I was already feeling bad about rejecting his offer, and his reaction just compounded the guilt. He was such a gentleman, and he understood me. Whereas on one hand my rejection would have definitely wounded other men's ego, on the other Rohan accepted it graciously. I felt horrible about what I did. I was letting my past experiences overpower me and hampering my chances on a better future. I just wish I could undo my mistake. A guy like Rohan is very hard to come by, and I just lost my chance. A week later, it seemed as if the universe was back to its ruthless self. I had been overworked the whole week, not to mention the emotional toll that rejecting Rohan had taken on me. I was just about to head home when I got a call about an attempted robbery. When I went to check it out, I realized that I was standing in front of a very familiar jewelry store, face to face with an equally familiar man. Mr. Malhotra, what happened this time? I installed the alarm system like Jay said. It was connected to my phone so that I would be notified if anyone would even touch the door or window. So I got a notification that someone was trying to get into my shop. That's why I called it in, he said, avoiding looking into my eyes. Why was he turning his gaze away from me? I should be the one feeling ashamed, rejecting a man who was just being polite and chivalrous. After confirming that nothing was wrong and that everything was normal, we decided to head back home. Realizing that maybe fate was trying to send me a sign, I decided to do something bold, to let go of my fear and inhibitions, to grab the second lucky opportunity that knocked on my door. Rohan, do you want to take a walk? The weather is quite pleasant and we could talk. Please say yes, though I would totally understand if you deny. I asked with my heart in my mouth, afraid he would say no. I would love to, Shreya. To be honest, I was really hoping you would ask, he said, giving me a genuine smile. We started walking. The destination didn't matter, because each other's company was all that we needed. We talked about our lives and hobbies, debated whether the earth was flat or round. Conversation seemed to be flowing freely between us. Neither of us realized when our hands got intertwined. It just seemed so natural. They fit together perfectly, as if they were made for each other. We sat at the docks, just watching the beautiful night sky. Suddenly, the guilt of my previous action washed over me. I felt the need to explain my actions. Without leaving his hand, I said, Rohan, I want to apologize for the other day. Sparks flew the day we met, and there was an instant attraction between us. There is no use denying it, because I know both of us felt it. It was so quick and sudden. It terrified me. I had just got out from an incredibly toxic relationship, and the scars still hadn't healed. You are an amazing man, Rohan. You are kind, chivalrous, understanding, not to forget incredibly handsome. It wouldn't be fair to you if I didn't give you my 100%. So I chickened out. But you should know my heart shattered into a million pieces that day, and the dejected look on your face made me want to slap myself. Every day since that day, I have felt immensely guilty. I regretted turning you down and not giving myself another chance. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. And maybe if today is my lucky day, you will allow me to take you out. My treat. I waited with bated breath, desperately hoping he would accept. I was looking out towards the sea, not wanting him to see my face in case he said no. I remembered how hurt he had seemed when I had rejected his offer, and I knew my expressions would be 1,000 times worse. It seemed like an eternity had passed, and there was still no reply from Rohan. I turned to look at him, and he just leaned in, gently kissing my forehead. Shreya, since we are all about confessions today, there is something I would like to confess to. Yes, I was heartbroken when you declined my offer, but I wasn't ready to give up just yet. I knew what I felt was reciprocated, and you must have had your reasons for doing what you did. I just wanted to show you how sincere I am about us, to make you feel secure. So I faked the robbery call just so I could talk to you again. I know what I did was wrong, but since when does the heart see sense when it comes to matters of love? I want to give us a chance. I am not saying we commit to each other right now. I know it is too soon for that. But how about we just go out, meet each other regularly, and see where it takes us? I do have a good feeling about this, Rohan said. Contrary to feeling hurt about his lie, I actually felt loved, like I mattered to someone, like someone cared about me. So we parted with the promise of meeting each other the next day. A year later, I double-checked everything, making sure everything was in place. Today was a very special day, and I intended to make it the happiest day of Rohan's life. A year ago today, we promised each other to see where life would take us. And we did just that. We may have started off as friends, but soon enough love creeped up on us. The past year had been nothing short of bliss. We were deeply in love, but none of us had confessed to each other yet. Tonight I was planning to change that. I wanted us to be together officially, to show him off to the world as mine. Although the world seemed to be pretty smart, seeing as Jay and my other friends had been constantly teasing me with Rohan, they seemed to be more impatient than me, waiting for me to deliver the good news. So here I was, at the same docks, ready to propose. I had set up the area perfectly, with a table beside the sea covered by a canopy. Fairy lights and our Polaroids covered the area, making it seem magical. I was quite proud of myself, actually. I was never the person to do grand gestures and exhibit my love openly, but Rohan had changed me. He deserved every bit of it, if not more. He had been patient the whole year, not wanting to rush things. He was waiting for a sign from me, and today he was going to get that sign. As I nervously adjusted my black dress, I felt a shiver run down my spine. He had arrived and was standing right behind me. I turned slowly, my face opening in awe at the sight in front of me. Rohan looked devilishly handsome in a black formal shirt and black pants. When he realized that we were twinning, his face split into a wide grin. He hugged me tightly and turned to look at the setup. He took his own sweet time taking the sight in, examining the pictures I had hung. He walked back towards me with a knowing expression on his face. Not wasting another minute, I dropped to my knees. I am sure you already know what is coming next. Exactly a year back at this very spot, we decided to give ourselves a chance. And that we did. I know how hard it must have been for you to wait patiently the whole year. Trust me, it wasn't easy for me either. I love you, Rohan, with all my heart. I have known this for a while now. I was just waiting for the perfect moment, wanting this memory to be etched in our hearts forever. So, what do you say? Ready to be mine? As ready as I will ever be. Saying this, he pulled me back up and latched his lips on mine. It was our first kiss, and it was literally breathtaking. As we lay under the stars, I thanked the universe for everything. Everything that happened, whether good or bad, had put me on the path towards finding my true love. As I stared into those chocolate brown eyes, a realization dawned upon me. It seemed like the universe did love me after all. Next story, Supatrik, the chief of police and internal security at Ujjain, walked rapidly up to the riverside, just as the body was being fished out. The officer supervising the operation turned around and saluted his commander immediately. It was Mira's body. Supatrik was stoic and stoned. He wanted to cry and shout, but his stature did not allow him to surface emotions. He had read Mira's mail and had called her too, but maybe due to mayhem, she couldn't take his calls. Supatrik loved Mira. He could not let her go like this. He has to change the course of destiny now. He applied Sindoor and put Mangal Sutra before performing last rites of Mira. It was Mira Supatrik Kumar who was going for her final journey. He performed all the rituals to be done by a husband. Next day, he collected ashes of Mira Supatrik Kumar and immersed it in Kshipra. She was now free from burdens of human life. Her soul had traversed into another world free of guilt and judgments. I am taking you to Goa to understand the mysteries of nature, mysteries of life, mysteries of reincarnation, the vicious circle of our karma chakra. It starts in 2018 and traverses to 326 BC. A lady who was cursed to be doomed always. There was a lot of commotion in the room, flutter of paper, the ringing of phone bells, clacking of teacups. All the hands, hearts, and heads were moving at lightning speed. After all, it was question of a big event, home minister's daughter's beachside wedding. And Mira was the best possible choice for that. She was the best not only in Goa but the best in the country. Sitting in her long chair with spectacles placed on her forehead, a pin stuck in her hair, Mira looked serene and pristine, still resplendent. The green chiffon sari adorned her as if a grapevine had clung to a tree. Her dark coal eyes had a depth of sea, and her long silky mane completed the look. Mira, the rhythm in the name, was true to her physical attributes too. She looked like poetry in motion, fit as a fiddle. No one could say she had celebrated 4 decades of her life last month. Only Mira and Supatrik were friends since college time. Supatrik had always requested Mira to convert this friendship to a relationship, but Mira always bought time from him, and Su, as Mira would call him, would always smile and give Mira her wings. He was madly in love with her and could wait lifelong for her. Supatrik was police commissioner of Goa. Su and Mira looked perfect power couple, but Mira didn't want any strings attached to her, so marriage was kept at a bay. Time and tide waits for none. Supatrik got transferred to Ujjain, and Mira too got engrossed in her work. As her work was expanding and she was recruiting new talents, and one day as she was in her office, a person came to her cabin with his CV. He was Manav. Mira couldn't understand why her heart missed a beat seeing him. He looked so fresh and radiant. A tall, chiseled-bodied man of 25 years, graduate from IIM Ahmedabad. CFA degree under his arm. Manav was a good choice despite having no work experience. Mira hired him on his terms. She could not make it out why she was behaving like a puppet. What was so compelling in his deep, dark eyes? But there was something magnetic about him. Manav grasped his work very quickly, and slowly and steadily he made a place of his own. One morning as Mira was jogging on the beach, she saw Manav running there. Smitten by the same bug, both became morning partners. They would run, jog, and swim together. It became a routine with them before reaching office. Weekends they would swim to farther places. This weekend too they had planned to go to Tiger Beach. It was a beautiful but isolated beach, famous for its tranquility, good for meditation. It was a bright sunny day when they reached there. The sand was shining like white gold. Mira meditated while Manav went for scuba diving. After some time Mira too went for swimming. She was enjoying her swim, but then suddenly a strong undercurrent started pulling Mira inside the sea. All her efforts were nullified by the current. She tried hard like Abhimanyu of Mahabharata, but couldn't come out of that whirlpool. Manav was quite ahead of her. She shouted for help, but Manav could not hear her. She got exhausted now. She shouted again with all her might and fell unconscious. All she knew was when she gained her conscious, Manav was with her. He had saved her. They had taken shelter in an old shack as Tiger Beach was an isolated one. There was no shelter around, and they had also lost their phones, so they were on the mercy of God as rains was not in a mood to stop. Sea was on its full youth and the sky was roaring. It seemed as if both wanted to hug each other. Thunder and lightning diluted all the boundaries. Out of fear, Mira clung to Manav. Even though he was very young to her, his touch could soothe her raging nerves. Mira sought solace in his embrace. Time stopped, but that night melted away all their hesitations, shyness, restraints, and moderations. They shrunk in each other's arms. Carnal pleasures lessened the fear of outer world. By the morning, all the storms had subsided. Falling down is a vast subject, and so is a downfall. None of us escapes it, and now Mira had her share of both. Life had taken a sharp curve for her. She had fallen into the deep abyss of guilt. She couldn't see herself in mirror. Next day, she found Manav's resignation letter on her table, citing an upgradation in his profile. This squarely put Mira in a spot. She accepted it without a blink and sort of absolved him. She wanted the demons of guilt sitting on her shoulders to stop tapping her head and demean her. She wanted to have peace with herself. She knew that no amount of guilt can change the past and no amount of anxiety can change the future, so she took a day off from work and again went to Tiger Beach to be with Mother Nature. She sat on the beach, pondered over the happenings of her life, and then again started walking towards mangroves. There she saw an old banyan tree. It looked like centuries old. Its vines had covered it from all the sides. It seemed as if a guard was standing there with a spear in his hand, protecting something. The rustle of wind was whispering something in her ears. Mira went around it. Suddenly she stumbled. There was something big under the vines, something huge. She took it out after a great effort. It was a big, old, rusted trunk, something from ancients. She somehow managed to bring it to home. Curiosity took reins of her sensibilities, and she opened the box. There was no treasure in it, but for some rotten things, some paintings, some coins, something like a stamp. As she took out the paintings and cleaned it, she shivered and froze. This was a painting of a royal faces familiar to her. Lo and behold, it was Mira herself with Sue holding a kid who looked like a miniature of Manav. Mira lost her conscious and went into an altered state of subconscious. She was having flashbacks. Is this reincarnation? Did Mira belong to an old royal family? Were she and Sue husband and wife? Was Manav their son? All the questions were dancing in front of Mira. She was feeling dizzy. Was it a tale of her past life? Someone was murmuring into her ears. She had heard soul wanders. Unless its wishes are fulfilled, it doesn't get nirvana. And if a person's life is nipped by any other reason than a natural one, it travels from one body to another. Mira had gone in a trance. She could see herself in a royal attire. Past events were running before her eyes like a kaleidoscope. Mira was time-traveling to past. It was a centuries-old story. The mystery was unfolding itself before her. Part 2: A peaceful, calm, and quiet city situated on the banks of river Kshipra. Ujjayani Nagara temples, priests, dasis, raths, all completed the Nagari. A big Rajmahal of King Kanniyakumari sat in the middle of the Nagar. There was peace and prosperity everywhere. Besides the Mahal was a temple, a Rajmandir, where only royals would come. Priests would perform puja for the king, and dasis, devdasis, would entertain the kings. It was the ethos of that time. Deep-rooted, without any remorse, royals would abuse and use the devdasis for their pleasure. Chatra months Purnima saw 2 births, one at the stairs of temple and other in the comforts of palace, both fathered by the king Skandagupta. Supatrik was the Yuvraj of Ujjayani, and Mira was the daughter of Devdasi. Oblivious to their origin, they would play and live together. Yuvraj was very fond of Mira, and both were inseparable. Time flied. Yuvraj went to ashram for Astra Shiksha, and Mira too started taking Diksha. After completion of his learning, Yuvraj returned. Both Supatrik and Mira were in a budding age now. With the passage of time, their innocent friendship had taken shape of love. Supatrik wanted to marry Mira, and the testimony of his love had taken shape in Mira's womb. Mira was carrying the lineage of royal blood. While Maharaj Skandagupta was expanding the boundaries of his Rajya, he was oblivious to what was happening in his Mahal. Maharaj returned to Ujjayani after defeating his enemies. Yuvraj Supatrik thought it was the right time and expressed his desire to marry Mira before the king. A lightning struck the Maharaj as he knew Mira was fathered by him. He got enraged and warned Supatrik against meeting Mira. Supatrik could not understand the reason behind king's rage. He went to see Mira. He couldn't retreat now. He had now Mira and their 6-month-old son to take care of. He has to keep his words. This kept on knocking in his mind. They decided to leave the kingdom. They planned to move away from Ujjayani in the coming Amavas night. Mira was very upset and enraged due to king's hatred towards her. So at night, she stealthily went to the Mahal and took one precious gem-studded painting of king and his queen, one Raj Mohar, and some Ashrafi, and everything was going as per plan. Mira put all the things in the trunk, took her son, and went with Supatrik towards Kshipra Nadi to leave the city when pall of gloom descended them. On the banks of Kshipra, king and his army was waiting for them. Supatrik was stunned. Mira was taken aback. They could not face the armed soldiers. Mira was lynched. The infant was ripped and thrown into raging Kshipra along with their belongings. Yuvraj was taken into custody. It's documented that Yuvraj could not take all this and one day left the palace and never returned. That marked the downfall of Gupta age, as their enemies capitalized on the weak family situation of Skandagupta and invaded the kingdom. Ujjayani was doomed. Mira regained her consciousness. She could recall everything. She wanted to meet Supatrik. She mailed him every minutest details, Manav and her weak moments too. She was sure Sue would understand and forgive her. She waited and waited, but Sue didn't reply. And how could he? He was busy in supervising the royal procession of Lord Mahajit, which was being attended by PM, CM, and many other dignitaries. Mira decided to leave for Ujjain, and she desperately wanted to meet and talk to Sue. She reached outskirts of Ujjain in the night, but it was chaotic there. Every road was blocked and choked due to procession, so she decided to travel by boat. Boats too were overcrowded. There were at least 20 people more than capacity of the boat in which she sat. She ignored everything as meeting Sue was her priority. As Mira was unfavored, unwanted child of Mother Destiny, misfortune always hounded her. The boat capsized in Kshapanati. Mira tried hard, but she was destined a watery grave. Supatrik got the paintings restored and handed it to the National Museum. Historians and archaeologists were always intrigued and mystified by the missing links, as after King Kumaragupta of Mauryan Empire, there were no pictures or paintings of the successors. The case of missing royal stamps and the royal mohurs of King, which was a mystery till now, was also resolved. Mira became wife of Supatrik only after her soul had left the body. Maybe in the next birth, they will be free from all curses. Maybe or maybe not.